Shall I? See, the purpose of all that we are doing is to relook at or reimagine this whole educational paradigm. And that is because this whole modernity is centered around education. It's all about whether you send children to school, not to school, homeschool, de-school, it's all about schooling. You know? So it is extremely important to revisit this, that what actually is education all about, you know, meaning, so extend it further and figure out what is knowledge all about, why do we need knowledge, and if at all we want to establish a knowledge based society, how do we go about doing it? See, the claim of modernity is that we are now living in knowledge society, whereas tradition was not living in, indigenous communities were not living in knowledge society. And this is an absurd kind of assumption actually, because if you actually look at the way we are living, just look at the way we are living, we seems to be living in the most unscientific way, whereas indigenous communities were living far more scientifically in that sense. Science actually means to know how to live. That's what basically science means actually. But of course there are lots of claims and statistics and everything to defeat this true exploration, because there are this whole statistics that the West brings to talk about things are better is absolutely because they even claim that now we are living in the most happier times, claiming that the indigenous communities were not happy. I mean, just look at the kind of mad people that are there in the West. How many people are being drugged, for unhappiness, suicide, murder? Everything is on a social level, not in war. Look at the amount of killings that happen in America, the so-called the most progress country. That itself is a proof that this claim is absolutely wrong. And all of them seems to be going after some meditation workshop or something or the other because they are unhappy. And nobody seems to be actually even knowing how to parent their children, how to look after their children. So all of them are attending parenting workshops, So one thing that has become extremely clear in modern society is that 95% are living on second-hand ideas and thoughts. Somebody has to give them knowledge to exist on each and everything. So it's actually, it's an absurd claim to even state that we are living in a knowledge society. We talk about knowing, but at being level there is no knowledge. This is the problem. So, but because we are living in a certain confusion about this, it is really important to understand what actually constitutes knowledge and how do we reimagine our space. That's what it is. In fact, traditional societies were living in a true knowledge society. This is what I have been feeling, because if you look at the caste system, for example, each caste was actually a university of its own. A potter would know everything about pottery. I mean, it's not just that. Other thing that I have been feeling in the context of traditional, living is that, so there is a saying in the West that jack of all trades and master of one. That's what they say. But when I have been actually looking around in the indigenous communities, I find that and many people I have met who are actually jack of all trades and master of many. You see, that's how it is. Because so you take any artisan, take a carpenter or take a potter, anybody for that matter. Even though his focus is either on wood for a carpenter or clay, all the other aspects, the tools that he makes, which is with bamboo, and there are many products that he needs to make in bamboo, which he makes. He doesn't go to a bamboo artisan to make that. A carpenter, for that example, he would know how to make his own tool, which is, usually you'll have to go to a blacksmith. He himself makes it. So he knows many, so what I'm trying to say is that that we already were living in a knowledge society without talking about it. So the difference between these two knowledge systems is that one is about talking about it. One knowledge is articulated in terms of language. Other one is lived. Like, simple example is the way we know grammar. No? We know grammar, but we don't know whether to tell this is noun, this is verb, nothing about that, but we know it implicitly. Exactly like that. True knowledge societies are our indigenous societies, not only in India, all over the world. It is only when modernity came in, westernization came in, this knowledge completely stopped, and the non-Western countries completely got dependent on the Western, universities to create knowledge. Nowhere else knowledge is getting created. If at all something is happening here and there, it is based on the framework that the West has created. No? So the framework is very clearly West. No? So whether it is some knowledge creation is happening in Japan, for example, Japan something is happening, but the framework is Western framework within which they are creating. And if you actually look at the Western, the thing that is happening in the West vis-a-vis knowledge, you find that it's almost like fashion. It keeps changing, like the way the allopathic medicines keep changing, Knowledge also keeps changing. It is, that somebody talks about something, then that becomes a fashion almost. Like some time ago, this man, Montessori was in fashion for some time, Steiner is in fashion, or in the mainstream thing, this Howard Gardner used to be in fashion. Now there is something called cognitive styles of learning. So every 4-5 years you have one fashion that comes in, and then another fashion comes in. So it is really important to understand that how do we reimagine our spaces, our living space, our being space, where we sort out the confusion as to what exactly is knowledge, and how is it that we are all creating knowledge. And suppose we want to go into deeper and higher dimensions of knowledge, what is it we should be doing, and what is the kind of environment that is required